The alarm screamed through the Galactic Council station, and Ambassador Velkara's scales rippled with anxiety. In her 300 years of service, she had never heard that particular sound. It meant one thing. An unknown ship had just appeared at their doorstep without permission or warning. She rushed to the command center, her forelegs carrying her faster than most species could run. The massive viewing screens showed a vessel unlike anything in the galactic database. It was crude by Council standards, held together with what looked like welded metal plates and flickering energy shields. Scorch marks covered its hull, and several sections were clearly damaged. Where did it come from? Velkara demanded. The sensor officer, a young Trithan with nervous antennae, checked his readings twice before answering. The Sol system, Ambassador. The quarantine zone. The room fell silent. Everyone knew about Sol. It was home to a pre-FTL species that the Council had been watching for decades. They called themselves humans, and everything about them screamed danger. They came from what galactic xenobiologists classified as a Class 12 death world, a planet so hostile that most Council species would die there within hours. Worse, humans were predators. They had forward-facing eyes designed for hunting. They ate both plants and meat, meaning they could survive almost anywhere. Their ancestors had chased prey animals for days until the creatures collapsed from exhaustion. Some human tribes had even engaged in cannibalism. During their early history, the intelligence reports painted a grim picture of a violent species that had spent most of its existence at war with itself. They had developed nuclear weapons before space travel and had come terrifyingly close to destroying themselves multiple times. The Council's standing orders were clear. Monitor from a distance and do not make contact until humans either destroyed themselves or achieved peaceful global unity. Yet here they were, somehow having built a faster-than-light ship and crossing the gulf between stars. "Open a channel," Velkara ordered, trying to keep her voice steady. "And get security teams ready. Weapons on standby, but do not fire unless I give the order." The screen flickered and a human face appeared. Velkara had seen images before, but confronting one directly was different. The creature had pale brown skin, dark hair pulled back from its face, and those unsettling forward-facing eyes that seemed to look directly into her soul. But what surprised Velkara most was the expression. The human looked tired, worried, and sad, but not aggressive. "This is Dr. Sarah Chun of the Earth vessel Perseverance," the human said. Her translator device worked perfectly, which meant they had somehow figured out Council standard communication protocols. "We come in peace and are requesting emergency asylum. Our ship is damaged, and we have 3,000 refugees aboard, including 500 children. Please, we need your help." Velkara's training told her to be cautious. This could be a trick, a way to get the humans' foot in the door before they showed their true violent nature. But she was also a diplomat, and diplomats follow protocol. "This is Ambassador Velkara of the Galactic Council. You have entered restricted space without authorization. Explain how you developed faster-than-light travel and why you have left your home system." The human woman's face crumpled slightly, a display of emotion that seemed genuine. "Our sun is dying. We destabilized it accidentally while trying to develop clean energy technology. We built these ships as fast as we could to save as many people as possible. As for the FTL drive, necessity is the mother of invention, as we say. When your children are dying, you find a way." She paused, then continued. "We're not here to invade or conquer. We're desperate. We'll share our technology freely if you give us sanctuary. We have some things that might interest you, including the quantum fold drive that brought us here and advances in medical nanotechnology. We just want our people to survive." Velkara's second heart skipped a beat. No species in galactic history had ever offered to share advanced technology freely. It always came with strings attached, with demands for payment or power. This had to be a manipulation tactic, something to lower their guard. You would give us your technology? For nothing but asylum? Valkara asked, suspicion clear in her voice. Dr. Chun smiled sadly. Ambassador, where we come from, we have a saying. A rising tide lifts all boats. If our technology can help you, help other species, then sharing it is the right thing to do. We've learned the hard way that hoarding knowledge and fighting over resources leads to disaster. We almost destroyed ourselves doing exactly that. If we survive this, we want to be better. Valkara wanted to believe this was genuine, but her training and experience told her otherwise. Predator species didn't think this way. They competed, they conquered, they dominated. That was how evolution worked. The strong survived by taking advantage of the weak. We will allow you to dock in Bay 7, Valkara finally said. Your people will be confined to a specific section of the station under heavy guard until we can verify your intentions. Any aggressive action will be met with immediate force. Do you understand? Perfectly, Dr. Chun replied. Thank you, Ambassador. You're saving lives today, and we won't forget that. The transmission ended, and Valkara immediately began issuing orders. Security teams were to be tripled. All human movements were to be monitored. Science teams would examine their technology for weapons or threats. And she would personally interview as many of these humans as possible to understand their true nature. As the human ship slowly limped toward the docking bay, Valkara watched it on the screen. 3,000 refugees, they claimed. 500 children. If this was a lie, it was an elaborate one. But if it was true, if these terrifying predators from a death world really were just desperate survivors seeking help, then everything the Council thought they knew about intelligent life might be wrong. She would find out which it was. One way or another, the truth about humans would be revealed. 3 weeks passed, and Valkara spent most of her waking hours watching the humans. Her security team had set up cameras throughout the refugee section, monitoring every movement, every conversation, every interaction. She was looking for the truth beneath the peaceful facade, waiting for these predators to show their real nature. What she found confused her more each day. The humans had been assigned basic quarters, simple rooms with sleeping platforms and minimal amenities. Within 2 days, they had reorganized everything, but not for themselves. They had created a school for the station's children, any species welcome. Human teachers, scientists, and engineers volunteered their time to help young Grallians learn mathematics, to teach Trithan children about Earth biology, to show Zintian youngsters human art and music. Valkara watched through the cameras as a human woman named Jennifer sat on the floor with a group of mixed-species children. Reading them stories from Earth, the children were fascinated, crawling into her lap without fear, while their parents watched nervously from a distance. Jennifer's predator eyes crinkled with warmth as she explained how humans told stories to teach lessons and share dreams. This one is called The Giving Tree, Jennifer said, her voice soft. It's about unconditional love and generosity. It made no sense. Predators didn't voluntarily care for others' offspring. They saw them as either threats or prey. Yet here was a human, spending hours teaching children who weren't even her species, expecting nothing in return. The medical bay provided even stranger evidence. Dr. Chung had immediately offered human medical knowledge to the station's understaffed hospital. At first, the council doctors refused, worried about contamination or incompatible treatments. But when a Grallian worker suffered a severe injury that their doctors couldn't heal, Dr. Chun asked permission to try a human technique. Valkara watched as human doctors worked for 18 hours straight to save the Grallian's life. They used something called nanobots, microscopic machines that could repair tissue from inside the body. The technology was revolutionary, but what struck Valkara was the human's attitude. When the Grallian woke up, healed and whole, the human doctors were crying tears of relief and joy. "Why are you crying?" the confused Grallian asked. "You don't even know me." "Because you're alive," Dr. Chen said simply. "Because we could help, and we did, and you get to go home to your family. That's worth crying about." Valkara began interviewing individual humans, trying to understand this bizarre behavior. She spoke with engineers who spent their free time fixing broken equipment around the station, asking for nothing. She talked to a human named Marcus, who had organized a food-sharing program because he noticed some refugees from other species were struggling with the station's limited rations. "We have some extra from our stores," Marcus explained. "It seemed wrong to keep it when others were hungry, but those resources belong to your people," Valkara pointed out. "Why share them with potential competitors?" Marcus looked at her with genuine confusion. "Competitors? They're just people who need help. We've got enough. They don't. Seems pretty simple to me." The breakthrough came during a crisis. A maintenance shaft in the station's lower levels collapsed, trapping a young Grallian child in the debris. The station's emergency crews assessed the situation and determined the rescue would take hours. The shaft was unstable, and sending in workers risked more casualties. They began the careful process of stabilizing the structure. Before attempting extraction, Marcus happened to be nearby when the accident occurred. He heard the child's screams, heard the mother's desperate pleas for someone to save her baby. Without hesitation, without asking permission, Marcus grabbed the light and crawled into the unstable shaft. Valkara watched in horror through the security feeds as this human squeezed his body through gaps that seemed impossible, his flexible spine and joints allowing movements that her rigid species could never achieve. His forward-facing eyes gave him perfect depth perception in the darkness. His hands, with their opposable thumbs and delicate touch, carefully moved debris that could have killed the child. The shaft groaned and shifted. Rescue workers shouted warnings. Marcus ignored them all, focused entirely on the terrified child trapped in the wreckage. When he finally reached the young Grallian, he spoke softly in the child's language, something he must have learned in just 3 weeks on the station. "I've got you. You're safe now. I'm going to get you out, okay? Just hold on to me." The child wrapped small arms around Marcus's neck, and the human began the dangerous journey back. Twice the shaft shifted, nearly crushing them both. Once, a sharp piece of metal sliced open Marcus's arm, and Valkara could see dark red blood seeping through his shirt. He didn't stop. He didn't even slow down when Marcus emerged with the child. The mother rushed forward, taking her baby and checking for injuries. She was sobbing with relief and gratitude. Marcus stood there, bleeding and covered in dust, and smiled. "She's okay," he said to the rescue workers. "A little scared, but no serious injuries. Why did you do that?" Valkara asked, arriving at the scene. "You could have died. That child isn't your species, isn't your responsibility. Why risk your life?" Marcus looked at her as if she had asked why water was wet or why stars shone. She was scared. She was trapped. Someone had to help. He paused, wincing as a medic bandaged his arm. "I don't understand the question, honestly. If you can help and you don't, what kind of person does that make you?" That night, Valkara sat in her office reviewing weeks of surveillance footage and interview notes. Every piece of evidence pointed to the same impossible conclusion. These humans, these terrifying predators from a death world, weren't hiding malicious intent beneath a peaceful mask. The peace, the kindness, the constant helping, that was their true nature. She pulled up the xenopsychology reports on human evolution. Slowly, a picture emerged that the Council scientists had missed. Humans had evolved their intelligence not to become better hunters, but to become better cooperators. Their complex language developed to share knowledge and coordinate. Their ability to understand others' emotions, To feel empathy even for different species had been a survival advantage in their harsh world. Humans became smarter so they could be kinder. Their intelligence was a tool for compassion, not competition. But if that was true, if humans were genuinely this capable and this caring, one question haunted Velkara. What could possibly have gone so wrong on Earth that 2 billion humans had stayed behind, likely to die, while others fled to the stars? She needed to know the whole truth. Tomorrow she would ask Dr. Chun to explain everything, because Velkara was beginning to suspect that humanity's story was far more tragic and far more important than anyone had imagined. Dr. Sarah Chun sat across from Velkara in the ambassador's private office. 4 weeks had passed since the humans arrived, and Velkara had finally requested a full briefing on what happened to Earth. Sarah looked tired, older than her years, carrying a weight that showed in every line of her face. "I suppose you want to know the whole story," Sarah said quietly. "I need to understand," Velkara replied. "Your people are not what we expected. You share technology, help strangers, risk your lives for others. Yet you fled your homeworld with only a fraction of your population. What happened?" Sarah took a deep breath and began. 50 years ago, we had a dream. Humanity had finally achieved global peace after centuries of war. We united under a single goal: to save our planet from environmental collapse. We needed clean, unlimited energy. Fusion power was the answer, we thought, but not the small reactors we had been building. We wanted to harness the power of our sun itself, to tap into the stellar plasma directly. She pulled up a holographic display, showing Earth's sun with elaborate machinery orbiting it. We called it the Helios Array. Thousands of satellites working together to extract energy directly from the sun's corona. It took us 30 years to build, the combined effort of every nation on Earth. When we activated it, we could power our entire planet without burning a single fossil fuel, without any pollution. It was perfect. For about 5 years. Sarah's voice cracked slightly. Then we noticed the readings changing. The sun was becoming unstable. Our scientists discovered that the energy extraction was causing magnetic field disruptions. The math was clear. Within 50 years, our sun would nova, not a full supernova, but enough to sterilize everything in our solar system. Velkara's scales paled. "You accidentally killed your own star?" "We tried everything to fix it," Sarah continued. "We shut down the array immediately, but the damage was done. We built stabilizers, massive machines to regulate the sun's magnetic fields. They slowed the process, but couldn't stop it. We had maybe 100 years, and that was only if someone stayed behind to maintain the stabilizers constantly." She pulled up images of Earth, beautiful and blue, and then the massive construction projects that covered entire continents. Humanity faced a choice. We could fight over who got to escape, descend into chaos and war, or we could work together. We chose to work together. Every nation, every person contributed. We built 12 ships, each designed to carry 50,000 people. We developed a quantum fold drive in 7 years, a technology that should have taken centuries. Necessity pushed us beyond our limits. "But that's only 600,000 people," Velkara said, doing the math quickly. "Your intelligence reports said Earth had over 9 billion humans." 9,400,000,000, Sarah corrected, her eyes glistening with tears. "We could only save 600,000. So we made it fair. Every human on Earth, regardless of wealth, power, or position, was entered into a lottery. Random selection. A billionaire had the same chance as a farmer, a president the same chance as a child." Velkara was stunned. In every galactic society she knew, the powerful would have seized the escape ships for themselves. Wars would have been fought. Resources hoarded. Your people accepted this. Most did. Oh, there were protests, even some violence, but the majority understood. If we were going to survive as a species, we had to survive as the best version of ourselves. We couldn't let our worst instincts win, not at the end. Sarah pulled up more images, showing massive crowds of humans saying goodbye at spaceports. The lottery selected 600,000 to go. But here's what broke my heart and made me proud at the same time. 2 billion humans volunteered to stay behind and maintain the solar stabilizers. 2 billion. They knew the ships might make it to safety, knew that Earth might be saved if someone kept the machines running. So they volunteered. 2 billion chose to stay and die? Valkara could barely comprehend it. They weren't just random volunteers. Some of humanity's greatest scientists stayed behind. Engineers, teachers, artists, young people with their whole lives ahead of them. Parents who gave their lottery seats to their children. They did it so that humanity would survive, so that our best qualities would make it to the stars. Sarah wiped tears from her eyes. Do you know what the last message from Earth said? I have it memorized. It said, "To those who journey beyond, carry our dreams with you. Remember us not as failures who destroyed our sun, but as a species that chose love over fear, sacrifice over selfishness. Be better than we were. Be kinder. Be wiser. And if you meet others among the stars, show them what humanity can be at its best. We die so that you can live. Make it worth it." The office was silent for a long moment. Valkara felt something she had never experienced before. A deep respect mixed with grief for a species she had been trained to fear. "This is why you share your technology freely," Valkara said, understanding flooding through her. "This is why you help without asking for reward. Those people stayed behind so that the best of humanity could survive," Sarah said. "How could we honor their sacrifice by being greedy? By being selfish? They died believing we would be better. And we will be. We have to be. It's the only way their deaths mean anything." Valkara stood and walked to her window, looking out at the stars. Her entire worldview was crumbling. The Council's philosophy had always been clear. Advanced intelligence led to competition and self-interest. Survival of the fittest meant survival of the most ruthless. But humanity proved that wrong. They had become smarter specifically to be kinder, to cooperate on a scale that seemed impossible. "There's something else," Sarah said quietly. "The stabilizers were designed to last 50 years with proper maintenance. The ships launched 3 months ago. If the volunteers keep the machines running, Earth might be saved. The sun might stabilize naturally after enough time. But we have no way to know, no way to communicate. We left 2 billion people behind with hope, not certainty." "We have to go back," Valkara said suddenly, turning from the window. "The Council has the resources, the technology. We could mount a rescue mission. It would take months to organize," Sarah said. "Maybe a year. And the quantum fold drive requires coordinates we don't have anymore. The journey would be dangerous. Then we make it safe. We use your technology and our resources. Dr. Chun, your species has shown us something we thought impossible. You've proven that intelligence and compassion aren't opposites. You've demonstrated that the strongest civilizations are built on cooperation, not competition." Valkara felt a certainty growing inside her. 3,000 humans are here now, but 2 billion more deserve a chance. We're going to save them. All of them. Because that's what your people would do if our positions were reversed, isn't it? Sarah stood, fresh tears streaming down her face, but she was smiling. Yes, that's exactly what we would do. Then it's time the Galactic Council learned to be a little more human, Valkara said. I'm calling an emergency session. We're going into Earth, and we're bringing your people home. The Galactic Council chamber had never been so full. Representatives from 47 different species filled the seats. Their attention focused on the central platform, where Valkara stood beside Dr. Sarah Chun. News of humanity had spread through the galaxy like wildfire, and everyone wanted to see these strange predators from Earth. Valkara began her presentation, showing the surveillance footage from the past month. She showed Marcus rescuing the Grallian child. She displayed records of humans sharing technology and resources. She presented testimony from dozens of council citizens whose lives had been touched by human kindness. Then she told them about Earth, about the lottery, about the 2 billion volunteers who stayed behind. The chamber erupted in debate. Some representatives were moved, their voices calling for immediate action. Others were skeptical, suggesting this was an elaborate deception. A few were hostile, arguing that humanity was too dangerous to allow into the galactic community. High Chancellor Vexstar, an ancient Zintian who had led the council for a century, raised his hand for silence. His 4 eyes studied Sarah carefully before speaking. Dr. Chun, your people have impressed many here today. But I must ask the difficult question. Your species nearly destroyed itself multiple times before achieving peace. You have a history of warfare, of weapons capable of ending worlds. How can we trust that this kindness is permanent? How do we know you won't revert to your violent past? Sarah stepped forward, her voice clear and strong. Chancellor, I won't pretend our history isn't bloody. We fought terrible wars. We built weapons that could destroy our planet. But here's what you need to understand. We learned. Every atrocity, every war, every moment of darkness taught us what we didn't want to be. We evolved beyond violence, not because it was easy, but because it was necessary. She activated a holographic display showing human history, the wars, and the peace that followed. The struggles and triumphs. You see violence in our past, and you're right to. But look at the trajectory. Each generation became less violent than the one before. We abolished slavery. We recognized universal human rights. We learned to resolve conflicts without war. It took us thousands of years, but we got there. And when our survival was threatened, we didn't revert to violence. We chose sacrifice instead. She looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of dozens of different species. Every intelligent species has darkness in its past. The question isn't whether you've been violent, but whether you've learned from it. We have. 2 billion people proved that by volunteering to stay behind. They proved that humanity's capacity for love is stronger than our capacity for hate. A Trithan representative spoke up. But what about resources? If we rescue 2 billion humans, they will need food, shelter, planets to settle. Won't they become competitors for limited resources? Marcus, standing with the other humans at the back of the chamber, stepped forward. Valkara nodded, giving him permission to speak. Respectfully, that's exactly the wrong way to think about it, Marcus said. You're not adding 2 billion mouths to feed. You're adding 2 billion minds to solve problems. 2 billion pairs of hands to build things. 2 billion hearts to care about the future. Humans don't just consume resources. We create them. We innovate. We figure out how to do more with less. He gestured to Sarah. In 7 years, facing extinction, we invented faster-than-light travel. Imagine what we could do with more time, more resources, more friends. Imagine what we could all do together. The galaxy isn't a pie where everyone fights over pieces. It's a garden where cooperation makes everything grow. The debate continued for hours. Some representatives remained opposed, but slowly, the tide turned. Species that had been rivals for centuries began speaking to each other, discussing how they might work together on a rescue mission. The humans' philosophy was infectious, spreading through the chamber like seeds finding fertile ground. Finally, Chancellor Vexstar called for a vote. The result was unprecedented in council history. 43 species voted to mount a massive rescue operation to Earth. Only 4 voted against. It was the largest cooperative effort in galactic history. The fleet assembled over the following months. Hundreds of ships from dozens of worlds, all working together. Human engineers shared their quantum fold technology, helping other species adapt it to their vessels. The journey would still take weeks, but it was possible. Velkara commanded the flagship, with Sarah as her advisor. When they finally emerged from fold space at the edge of the Sol system, what they saw took everyone's breath away. Earth still existed, blue and beautiful as ever. The solar stabilizers were running, maintained by the humans who had stayed behind. But the sensors showed something unexpected. The sun had stabilized naturally, faster than any human scientist had predicted. Earth was going to survive. The communication channels erupted with signals from the surface. 2 billion voices calling out in joy, disbelief, and gratitude. They had never given up hope, had kept the machines running every day for 9 months, believing that somehow, someone might come. The rescue operation took 3 months. Ships ferried humans from Earth to new colony worlds the Council species had volunteered to share. Planets with room to grow, resources to develop, and neighbors willing to teach and learn from each other. On the last day of the evacuation, Velkara stood on Earth's surface with Sarah, looking up at the sun that humanity had accidentally wounded and then saved. "Your people changed us," Velkara said. For 1,000 years, the Council operated on the principle that intelligence meant competition, that the smartest species would dominate the others. "You proved that wisdom isn't about being the strongest or the smartest. It's about being kind enough to lift others up with you." Sarah smiled, watching the last transport ship launch toward the stars. "We almost destroyed ourselves learning that lesson. I'm glad we can save others from making the same mistakes." "What will your people do now?" Velkara asked. "You have a galaxy full of friends and a home planet that survived. What's next for humanity?" "The same thing we've always done," Sarah replied. "We'll learn. We'll grow. We'll help wherever we can. And maybe, just maybe, we'll prove that the scariest thing about humans isn't how smart we are or how kind we are. It's that you don't have to choose between the two." 10 years later, the Galactic Council's headquarters displayed a new motto in 1,000 languages. It had replaced the old saying about strength through unity. The new words, suggested by humanity and adopted unanimously, read simply, "Unity through strength of character." In schools across the galaxy, children of every species learned about the humans who stayed behind to save their sun, and the galaxy that came together to save them in return. The lesson wasn't about sacrifice or technology. It was about something simpler and more powerful. Intelligence without compassion is just cleverness. Compassion without intelligence is just sentiment. But together, they could change everything. Humanity had arrived among the stars carrying the best parts of themselves, the parts worth saving, the parts that 2 billion volunteers had died to preserve. And in doing so, they had reminded every species in the galaxy what they could be if they tried. The Gralian child that Marcus had rescued grew up to become the first non-human to study human philosophy and culture. On her graduation day, a reporter asked her what she had learned. She thought carefully before answering, the way humans had taught her to do. "I learned that being smart means knowing what's possible. Being kind means caring about who's affected. And being human, whether you're born human or not, means never choosing between the two." Somewhere among the stars, on 47 different worlds, people looked up at the night sky and thought about their neighbors. And every one of them tried, just a little bit, to be more human.